What's up, my fit disciples? Welcome back to another video. I believe I have an encouraging word for you. As I've been talking about this season of lack that I'm going through right now, and it's financial. It's even gotten to the point where me and my family, we are staying in a motel by the kindness of the heart of some people, of some really good people. God has been taking care of us. God has kept us. God has been keeping us through this whole situation. I've been kind of drawing from my own experience to kind of get these messages together because I know I am not the only one. My family is not the only family dealing with this kind of financial struggle. There's a lot of us out in the world, with the economy going the way it is, with inflation and all of those things. It seems as if finances are hard to come by, or enough finances are hard to come by. But I want to let you know that God is there, God is with you, God is in it with you. And I'm sure you can identify in your life where He has continued to provide for you in spite of the fact of you not having the job or having the money or even having the extra income outside of your job to take care of you. Maybe you're an entrepreneur. Maybe you're somebody who is trying to build a business on their own, but you're hitting a hard season or a hard time. I want you to know that God is with you and God has a purpose and a plan for everything that is going on in your life. Now, in order for us to believe that God is with us, we have to have the right perspective. And there is no harder situation to have the right perspective in than in adversity, right? Going through something hard or something tough, it is hard to maintain the right perspective. It is hard to keep the right heart posture. And in that difficulty, there's something that we miss when we don't have the right perspective. There is something that we could miss out on in the midst of our, I'm going to call it, it's a season of lack, but I'm going to call it a wilderness season. There's something that we can come out, that we can miss out on if we don't have the right perspective. If we are not aware that God is with us and He has a purpose and He has a plan and He is using the situation to teach us, there's something that we can miss out on. And I don't want you to miss it. I don't want you to miss what God is trying to show you in the midst of this. There is nothing that goes on in your life that God is not using as a teaching tool. There's nothing. Blessing, failure, loss, open door, opportunity. There's nothing in our lives that God is not using as a teaching tool to grow us, to mature us. And we are a lot like the children of Israel in that when we go through hard times and difficulty, we have a tendency to complain and murmur and not appreciate what God is taking us through. That has the potential to blind us from what God is trying to do or produce in our lives. In Numbers chapter 11, verse 4 through 6, we see that the Israelites have been traveling through the wilderness, right? And they have just been delivered from Egyptian slavery. And God has done some powerful things for them. God has done miracles for them. And as I said earlier, I'm sure you can identify in your life where supernatural provision was made for you. Even though you're going through what you're going through, you're still alive. You still haven't, maybe you missed one meal, or maybe you haven't missed any meals, or you still have a roof over your head, or you have a car to sleep in, or you have a car to do things in. Um, God is still working miracles in your situation. But at times, though God is performing miracles, our complaining and our murmuring distracts us from seeing what God is doing in our lives. And in chapter 11, in Numbers, verse 4 through 6, this is what we see the Israelites doing. They had seen God deliver them. They had seen God's miraculous power. and they had seen God's provision, right? Because at another point, and this is in Exodus, they were thirsty. They needed water. God provided water. They needed food. God rained down manna from heaven. God was doing miraculous things before their eyes, but there was something that kept them from seeing it. And so I'm going to read chapter 11 of Numbers, verse 4 through 6. It says, "Now the mixed multitude who were among them yielded to intense craving. So the children of Israel also wept again and said, 'Who will give us meat to eat? We remember the fish which we ate freely in Egypt, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now our whole being is dried up. There is nothing at all except this manna before our eyes.'" One thing I want to point out is that when you are in your season of struggle or lack, there is going to be a craving. The craving is going to be your flesh crying out because it's uncomfortable. You have never had to do without, for example, maybe a certain meal that you enjoy. You may be without that thing you've grown accustomed to, that comfort that you had in the home that you used to have. In our situation, we're living in a motel, so we don't have the apartment that we used to have. We don't have the place that we used to have. And there was a certain level of comfort in that place that I was used to, that I am used to, that this motel room is making me feel anxious and uncomfortable. I'm not used to sharing such close quarters with everybody. I would be able to go into another room if I needed a mental break. I would be able to go and do different things, right, to distract myself if I'm going through something. But in this motel room, I have to face the reality of where we are every minute of every day. And there is a craving that comes out of me that desires for some type of normacy, at least normacy as to what I'm accustomed to, the thing that I'm used to. And the Israelites were used to a certain diet. They were used to a certain location. They were used to a certain level of comfort that they no longer had, but their body was not accustomed to where they were. Their flesh was not accustomed to where they were. Even their mindset and their hearts were not accustomed to where they were. And so now they're sitting in the wilderness feeling this feeling that I miss what I used to have. There's going to be a craving in the difficult season that God leads you into, because I want you to know that it has led you into this place. If you have come out of a 9 to 5, or you're coming into a place where God is breaking off the old you, that it's a new place that God is leading you into. And there are certain cravings that are going to come alive in that place. Certain memories. If you have turned away from a certain sin, a certain behavior that God has said you need to rid yourself of, a relationship, whatever it is, there is going to be a craving that rises the further and further you get away from what you're used to. That craving is going to want you to return to where you've been. You're going to want to go back to that negative relationship. You're going to want to go back to that sinful habit or that behavior. That craving is going to be there. They suffered from an intense craving, and all they could focus on in that craving is what they lost. Even though you're in a new place and in a new reality, the craving in you will make you focus only on what you've lost. And when you focus on only what you've lost, you miss what you've gained. That's what the Israelites were going through. They were so focused on their flesh being pleasured, their taste buds being pleasured by the things that they were used to, that they were missing, that they were getting manna from heaven. This is the heavenly bread. The scriptures call it the bread of angels. They were missing the fact that they were eating the bread of heaven, good bread. Everything that they needed, the nourishment that they needed was in this bread. Think about it. Our bodies need certain levels of nutrients. Our bodies need certain vitamins and essential and minerals to survive. And in this bread, God had packed enough of the minerals and the nutrients that they needed to survive in the wilderness for 40 years. Everything that they would need for their bodies to survive was in this bread. But the thing that was different, the thing that they missed was the taste of the variety, the taste of comfort. See, God will make you eat on something that's uncomfortable in the season of lack, but it gives you everything that you need. But because it's not what you want to taste, you will hate it. You won't like it. You'll throw it away. But if God is giving you everything that you need, that should be enough. And that's the thing that we miss. That's the thing that we get distracted from, that we can't keep our eyes on. The craving takes our eyes off of the fact that God is giving us everything that we need to survive, even what He's calling you to build with, right? God may have said to you, come out of your 9 to 5, and I want you to use the skills, the talents, and the gifts that you have inside of you, that I've placed inside of you, to build something new, so where you can be independent, where you don't have to rely on somebody else to give you a paycheck, but you can build something for yourself. And that uncomfortability, that season of uncertainty will make you want to go back to what you used to have, the 9 to 5, somebody ruling over you, somebody over your shoulder, trying to make sure you do your work. And God is like, no, I'm trying to develop you into something else. But if you focus so much on the comfort that was, you will miss out on what I'm trying to do in you. You will miss out on the independence that I'm trying to give you. You will miss out on the glory that I'm trying to produce in your life. When we succumb to the craving, when we focus so much on what we've lost, we miss out on what we've gained. And in the season of lack, in the season of uncertainty, God needs us to see what He is giving us, what He is providing us with. The manna was all the nutrients they needed, was everything they needed to survive, and in fact, to thrive. All they had to do was to believe God. All they had to do was submit their hearts to Him and trust that He is providing for them. In this season, that has been the difficult roller coaster for me. One day I'm good, one day I'm down. But I was having a conversation with my pastor, and I realized that when I don't focus on God, when I don't spend time in His presence, this is when I feel the weight of where my family is. And this is when I feel the discouragement and the depression and the fear and the desire to go back. And not just the desire to go back, but whenever we are focused on the things that we've lost, the cravings, when we allow the cravings to take over, even old sin habits will try to come alive in you. Things that displease God will try to come alive in you because you're just looking for some type of comfort. But God wants you to see that in my word, the manna represents the word of God. In my word is enough for you to survive. My speech is enough for you to get through this season. So I want to encourage you, don't be distracted by what you've lost. Don't be distracted by the relationships that you've lost. Don't be distracted by the fact that your body is craving the old thing it used to taste, the old craving. Don't be distracted. Focus on what God is doing in you now. Focus on what God has given you now, and believe that it is enough to sustain you and carry you to your future.